Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Almost seems like we should just keep chanting. Okay, so continuing reading from the Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 17, I believe. Text 22 of chapter 17, the divisions of faith. Okay, text 22. Adesha kaleya danam apatrebhyas chatiyate asatkritam avagyatam tattamasam udahritam. And charity performed at an improper place and time, and given to unworthy persons without respect and without contempt, is charity in the mode of ignorance. Text 23. Om Tat Sat Iti Nirdesho Brahmanas Trividasmitaha Brahmanas Tena Vedascha Yogascha Vihita Pura. From the beginning of creation, the three syllables Om Tat Sat have been used to indicate the supreme absolute truth, Brahman. They were uttered by Brahmanas while chanting Vedic hymns and during sacrifices for the satisfaction of the Supreme. Text 24. Tasmad Om Iti Udahritya Yagyadana Tapakriyaha Pravartante Vidhanokta Satatam Brahmavarinam. Thus the Transcendentalist undertakes sacrifices, charities, and penances, beginning always with Om, to attain the Supreme. Text 25. Tadityana Visandhaya Palam Yagya Tapakriyaha Dana Kriyascha Vividha Kriyante Moksha Kangshabihi. One should perform sacrifice, penance, and charity with the word Tat. The purpose of such transcendental activities is to get free from the material entanglement. Text 26 and 27. Sadbhave sarubhave cha sad iti tad prayujyate prashaste karmani tata sachabda parta yujyate yage tapasi dane cha stati sad iti chojyate karma chaiva tad arthiyam sad ityeva pritiyate. The absolute truth is the objective of devotional service, and it is indicated by the word Sat. These works of sacrifice, of penance, and of charity true to the absolute nature are performed to please the Supreme Person, O son of Pritha. Text 28. Ashradhaya hutam datam tapastaptam kritam chayat asadityuchyate partha nachatat pretino iha. But sacrifices, austerities, and charities performed without faith in the Supreme are non-permanent, O son of Pritha. Regardless of whatever rites are performed, they are called asat and are useless, both in this life and the next. Chapter 18, Conclusion, the perfection of renunciation. Text 1. Arjuna uvacha sanyasasya mahabaho tattvam ichhami veditum tyagasya cha hrishikesha pratakeshi nishurdana. Arjuna said, O mighty armed one, I wish to understand the purpose of renunciation, tyaga, and of the renounced order of life, sannyas, O killer of the Keshi demon, Rishikesh. Text 2. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Kamyanam Karmanam Nyasam Sannyasam Kavayo Vidu Sarva Karma Palatyagam Prahustyagam Vichakshanaha. The Supreme Lord said, to give up the results of all activities is called renunciation, tyaga, by the wise, and that state is called the renounced order of life, sannyas, by great learned men. Text 3. Tyajyam doshavad ityeke karma prahur manishinaha yagyadana tapa karma nyatyajam iti chapare. Some learned men declare that all kinds of fruitive activities should be given up, but there are yet other sages who maintain that acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance should never be abandoned. Text 4. Nishchayam shrinu me tatra tyagi bharata sattama tyago hi purusha vyagra trividha samprakirtitaha. O best of the Bharats, hear from me now about renunciation, O tiger among men. There are 3 kinds of renunciation declared in the scriptures. Text 5. Yagyadana tapakarma natyajyam karyam evatat yagyodanam tapaschaiva pavanani manishinam. Acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance are not to be given up, but should be performed. Indeed, sacrifice, charity, and penance purify even the great souls. Which text are we supposed to go to? So, which text do we go to? 7? 4? Alright, we started on 22, 23, 24. Alright, well, let's go back to text 22. We'll read the purport. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. And charity performed at an improper place and time and given to unworthy persons without respect and without contempt is charity in the mode of ignorance. Purport. Contributions for indulgence in intoxication and gambling are not encouraged here. That sort of contribution is in the mode of ignorance. Such charity is not beneficial. Rather, sinful persons are encouraged. Similarly, if a person gives charity to a suitable person without respect and without attention, that sort of charity is also said to be in the mode of darkness. Maharaj, we'd love to hear your thoughts if you'd like to share. Okay. I'll read text 23. From the beginning of creation, the 3 syllables Om Tat Sat have been used to indicate the Supreme Absolute Truth, Brahman. They were uttered by Brahmanas while chanting Vedic hymns and during sacrifices for the satisfaction of the Supreme. Purport. It has been explained that penance, sacrifice, charity, and foods are divided into 3 categories: the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. But whether first class, second class, or third class, they are all conditioned, contaminated by the material modes of nature. When they are aimed at the Supreme, Om Tat Sat, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Eternal, they become means for spiritual elevation. In the scriptural injunctions, such an objective is indicated. These 3 words, Om Tat Sat, particularly indicate the Absolute Truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Vedic hymns, the word Om is always found. One who acts without following the regulations of the scriptures will not attain the Absolute Truth. He will get some temporary result, but not the ultimate end of life. The conclusion is that the performance of charities, sacrifice, and penance must be done in the mode of goodness. Performed in the modes of passion or ignorance, they are certainly inferior in quality. The three words Om Tat Sat are uttered in conjunction with the holy name of the Supreme Lord. Is Om Tat Vishnu. Whenever a Vedic hymn or the holy name of the Supreme Lord is uttered, Om is added. This is the indication of Vedic literature. These three words are taken from Vedic hymns. Om iti tad brahmano nadishtam nama indicates the first goal. Then tatvamasi indicates the second goal. And sad eva samya indicates the third goal. Combined, they become Om Tat Sat. Formerly, when Brahma, the first created living entity, performed sacrifices, he spoke these three names of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The same principle holds by disciplic succession. So this hymn has great significance. Bhagavad Gita recommends, therefore, that any work done should be done for Om Tat Sat, or for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When one performs penance, charity, and sacrifice with these words, he is acting in Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is a scientific execution of transcendental activities which enables one to return home back to Godhead. There is no loss of energy in acting in such a transcendental way.
So, Om means Krishna, the absolute truth. That is Krishna. It is a way to express the Lord in sound. The Lord can be expressed in form, in sound, and in so many ways. He's present in all these different aspects. So he's present in syllable Om in the Vedas. And the impersonalists they favor that aspect of the Supreme Lord because they're impersonalists. They don't like to so much meditate on the personal form. They prefer the impersonal. So the Lord is as they surrender to Him, He rewards them. So those who want to appreciate Him through sound, impersonal sound, so to speak, it's not actually impersonal because it indicates Krishna, but they may think so. And if one chants Hare Krishna, he gets all the benefits of chanting Om, and more so because he's getting more characteristics, more transcendental realization, and Krishna is responding directly in his personal Shyamasundar feature. So that is the highest level of realization. This was discussed between Ramananda Roy and Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was asking questions. What is the supreme form of the Lord? And he answered, Shyamasundar. That's his eternal, Lord's eternal form. He's ever youthful Navayovana. And so that form as a adolescent is considered to be the topmost. Of course, it also depends on the individual. Some prefer the childhood Damodar feature, Lord. Others prefer the Shringadeva feature. So they're all transcendental, and one can approach the Lord in whichever way he prefers. Lord Chaitanya was speaking with a Venkata, I think in South India, and he tried to convince him, why don't you worship Radha Krishna rather than Lakshmi Narayan. But the devotee, he was attached to worshipping Lakshmi Narayan. So he continued. Some are attached to worshipping Sitaram. That's also recognized as the same absolute platform. Krishna is appearing in so many different ways. Om Tat Sat. So, Tat, the second goal, we're hearing about the second goal is one wants to become equal. He's not satisfied to be equal in quality with Lord. He wants to also think of himself as equal in quantity. He wants to be as good as God in everything. Well, that, of course, is impossible to achieve that, but they think like that. That's Om Tat Sat. Combined they become form. When Brahma created the living entity, performed sacrifice, he spoke these three names of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, whenever, it says, Bhagavad Gita recommends therefore that any work done should be done for Om Tat Sat. In essence, it means Krishna consciousness. Everything should be done for Krishna. There should be no other theme, no other purpose, no other aim than to do this as an offering to the Lord.
Jack, thank you, Maharaj. Does anybody else have any comments or questions or thoughts? Yes, Radha Damodar Prabhu.
I was just thinking that time is very important, like Krishna says here, like, giving charity in the improper times, a mode of ignorance. And also, like, the day is broken up into 3 parts. And I was hearing in a class from a devotee, I don't know the Shastra on this, but he was saying that each third of the day is categorized mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. Like 12 a.m. to 8 in the morning is mode of goodness, then till 4 p.m. mode of passion, then till 12 a.m. again mode of ignorance. I was just wondering, like, if that's the case, then would it be most beneficial to sync up with that system perfectly, like go to bed earlier, wake up earlier? Would that be most beneficial, or?
Yes, this is what we do. No, looking at a clock to see these things tends to be artificial, because the clock is representing time, and what is the time based off of? The sun. So it's more accurate to view the different times of day according to the sun. So, for instance, in the summertime, it doesn't get dark till like 9 o'clock. And you can see there's more passionate activities going on throughout those times. Whereas now, it gets darker much earlier. It's colder. There's more tamagun just prevalent. So, typically, yeah, as devotees, we take rest early. We wake up early. Be active during services throughout the day. So, we utilize these things to the in a practical way, but not to go overboard and put all of our attention on them. But it's very helpful, yes. Shri Shri Gauranatai Ki Jai. Maybe Valmiki Prabhu would like to share some words on the question. Okay, next time. Is that sufficient, or you'd like to hear more, or we could break it down further?
I guess I was just wondering, because a lot of the temple programs seem like they don't perfectly sync up with that. So I was wondering if there's a reason for that, or because we start our day, most devotees start their day at 4 in the morning, which is, if mode of goodness starts at 12 a.m., then that's a considerable amount of time which is lost that we could be spending chanting and reading. And then most devotees go to bed at 9 or 10. and so they're up doing things a considerable amount during the nighttime when mode of ignorance is prevalent. So I was wondering, that's kind of what I was wondering, like why are we doing things so late, and is that the case, or am I mistaken, or would it be more beneficial to push back, wake up at 12 in the morning, go to sleep like at 6 p.m., or that's kind of what I was wondering.
Yeah, I don't know where you heard this. I've never heard, again, I can only reiterate the point that it's not so black and white, that as soon as the clock hits this time, then it's this energy. You could be at like a big giant music festival and it's like 3 in the morning. Okay, it's the sattvic time, but it's like completely madness and chaotic and crazy outside. So it depends on the time, place, and circumstance. But in general, yeah, we should use these things to our benefit, but the body needs sufficient rest. And Prabhupada installed a program, this sandwich, where there's a morning program, there's an evening program, and then services in the middle of the day. So, as long as we just take shelter of this program, then we'll be above these modes of material nature, but we still have to observe what's going on. Like I said, it gets darker much earlier this time of year. Naturally, the body wants to like shut down and, call it a day earlier. But yeah, to be routine in our activities of the transcendental nature is very pivotal, because ultimately we can't rely on nature. But I mean, yeah, to the best of our ability, we should. But does that mean we wake up at midnight and start chanting? I don't know. I don't think that works for everybody, or else it'd be recommended. But maybe. Yeah, I mean, as far as living in the temple, there's certain standards to follow, and here we have the morning program and evening program. And like I mentioned, we may think that they may hinder certain things because we want to wake up at this time, or we want to do this, or we want to do that. But if we just simply surrender to the program, like it has everything that we need, we're regularly hearing, we're regularly associating with devotees. We think it's like impeding my plans of my this, my reading, my that. But if we just, okay, let me make the best of my time when I'm in the program, it has everything we need. So then it can be, an extra bonus to whatever we're doing separately. But, we have to be practical, so, I don't know, wake up at 12, chant 64 rounds before Mangal Arati, let me know how it goes. Then you go from there. Okay, does anybody else have anything to say or ask or discuss?
Hare Krishna. I was
Hare Krishna.
how what kind of pace and timing our day should follow to more utilize our energy. And I've heard from some devotees about following the Ashtakaliya time period that Krishna follows with, that's happening in the spiritual world, and we try to follow that also. That's why our artis are at the times they are, is because we're trying to mirror the times that Krishna is receiving these articles of these offerings that we're giving to him. So I don't have much knowledge of that. I haven't done much study of the Ashtakaliya Leela. It's a stotram that I think Krishnadas Kaviraj wrote for his realizations. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, when Ayendra Prabhu was starting the 24-hour kirtan of Vrindavan, some devotees were, kind of upset, where they're saying, the deities have been put to rest. You should be quiet. You should let them rest. And Ayendra yelled at the devotees, saying, "Krishna's not resting. He sneaks out of Mother Yashoda's house and goes to enjoy with the gopis in the middle of the night." So it's a very nice point that we're trying to mold our life around Krishna's life, but Yeah, I mean, different things work for different devotees. But ultimately, living at the temple, we take shelter of the program and we'll make lots of progress. But generally, what I've seen within myself or other neophyte devotees, we get upset with the way certain things are going and we don't want to follow it and we want to do our own program, our own schemes. And because we're neophytes, we may do it for some short time, but it doesn't stick, or because we're doing it in a more independent spirit, then it's easy to get carried away with different ideas, or just an independent mood, which kind of separates us from the devotees in a subtle way, which can be very dangerous. So, thoughts? Any other things anybody would like to mention? Does somebody want to read the next text and purport?
Which one?
24.
That's a short one. Thus, the Transcendentalists undertake sacrifices, charities, and penances, beginning always with Om, to attain the Supreme. Purport. Om Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam. The lotus feet of Vishnu are the supreme devotional platform. The performance of everything on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead assures the perfection of all activity.
It's a nice sentence. The performance of everything on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead assures the perfection of all activity. It's the perfection of all activity. Krishna's Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Nadir Adir Govinda Sarvakarna Karanam. He's the cause of all causes. So, of course, whatever a perfection of activity is going to be linked up with this cause of all causes. So this is the whole point, which was made at the end of the previous chapter and the end of this chapter, where the end of the last chapter, Krishna was talking about one who disregards the scriptural injunctions. He doesn't attain happiness or perfection or the supreme destination. And here, it's making it clear with this Om Tat Sat, which we just heard in the previous purport, which Prabhupada's elaborating. Means the purpose is always being directed at the final goal, like understanding the absolute truth, some kind of sacrifice. And Prabhupada said in this sentence, in the purport of text 23, one who acts without following the regulations of the scriptures will not attain the absolute truth. He will get some temporary result, but not the ultimate end of life. The conclusion is that the performance of charity, sacrifice, and penance must be done in the mode of goodness. So, as opposed to disregarding the scriptural injunctions, which is tamagun or rajagun, one needs sattvagun, which is equivalent as illumination, so we can actually see what we're doing, understanding why we're doing what we're doing, and always bathe our intelligence in the light of the scriptures. Otherwise, who knows what to do in life? Everybody has their own opinion of what to do. We should do like this, we should act like this. That's why you can meet people and they get so riled up about politics. All it is one person's opinion versus another person's opinion, and people get so angry and frustrated and possessive. You're crazy, you believe in this, you don't support these kind of rights. Psh, to hell with you. And then the other people are saying the same thing about other people. So it's always like this, but if we understand that Krishna's in the center, this cause of all causes, then very easily we can attain peace. Like this famous shloka, the peace formula. Bhoktaram yagatapasam sarva loka maheshwaram saradam sarva bhutanam yatvamam shantim richati. So by putting Krishna in the center, we can very, very easily attain a peaceful way of living. Not just for ourselves, but for everybody. So, does somebody want to read text 25?
One should perform sacrifice, penance, and charity with the word tat. The purpose of such transcendental activities is to get free from the material entanglement. Purport. To be elevated to the spiritual position, one should not act for any material gain. Acts should be performed for the ultimate gain of being transferred to the spiritual kingdom, back to home, back to Godhead.
So, I just wanted to make a point about Prabhu's question. I never heard it being so clear as soon as it encroaches upon midnight, then sattva-gun, switches over. Because in my experience, I've been in many like big cities or big festivals or places distributing books, and quite literally 95% of the time, as soon as the Brahma Muhurta comes, then everybody crashes. And then all of a sudden, all the demonic activity just stops. Maybe there's like few instances where people push beyond that, but I'd say even more like than generally speaking. Like I said, like 95% of the time, as soon as the Brahma Muhurta comes, then it's like everybody hits a wall. Everybody knocks out. Like I remember the first time I was distributing books at a music festival, we were sleeping like right next to the main stage. Like right next to the whole night, all you could hear was like the whole night long. And, we wake up at 4 o'clock. The stage went on till 4 o'clock in the morning. So like they finished right at the time that we woke up. And, we're waking up and showering. And then you could see all the people around us, they're like winding it up. They're like crashing. And that's one example, but you could ask other devotees, or, I've been to many other places, and it's like as soon as it hits that time, something really, really changes. So, generally speaking, devotees want to wake up and be fresh for the Brahma Muhurta, because that's the most sattvic time of the day. So, generally, that's why we come in to do Mangala Arti at that time. But, depending on the time of year, the Brahma Muhurta can be at different times. It could be much after Mangala Arti, or it could be like right at the time of Mangala Arti. But yeah, so I just wanted to highlight that point of like, because even living here, you can hear in the summertime especially certain activities going on, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, midnight, even a little later. But usually when we wake up and go to Mangala Arti, it's like everything's still and quiet. So, just a few thoughts. Yeah, please.
Hare Krishna, I was just recalling that Nanda Maharaj, he was arrested for taking bath before 3 because that time is considered demoniac. So the Brahma Muhurta generally starts later, like, 3, 4 o'clock. And like the evenings, like, I've heard that the mode of ignorance more sets in, like around sunset. Something to do with Lord Shiva and his party of ghosts going out around that time. And then like the mode of darkness is more like, midnight, 1, 2 in the morning. But it's all in relation to your service, We shouldn't spend so much time thinking about like sleeping and eating and stuff like that if it's not in relation to service, because it's like just temporary designations of the mind and body.
You gotta be specific. The Brahma Muhurta, 48 minutes before sunrise. So that changes, but yeah, it's usually never that early, like Prabhu mentioned.
Hi, that answers a lot of questions. I was hearing this from this whole breakdown of the day in the mode of goodness like this from S.B. Keshav Swami. But the way he described it's not that right at 12, mode of goodness sets in and it's the same until 8 in the morning. He said that 12 a.m. is the dawning of Sattvagun, and the peak is Brahma Muhurta, and then it gradually shifts into mode of passion, and then we can see that at the height of the day is the height of the mode of passion, and then gradually sets into the mode of ignorance. But he said that because 12 a.m. is the dawning of the mode of goodness, you can use that as, you can integrate into that natural system that Krishna has created. Most people are integrating into their own systems based on their jobs and whatnot, and their habits. But he said that we can integrate into that system. And most devotees do like to be fresh for Brahma Muhurta, but sometimes, like I notice, like if I wake up like too close to Brahma Muhurta, I won't be fresh. You know, if I wake up and if I wake up earlier, 2 a.m. or something, and I do some chanting or something, then I notice I'm more fresh, you know, and then go to bed earlier. It's nice. So those are just some thoughts that.
Yeah, it's something to progressively observe and realize as we continue to practice. You know, a devotee, we should always be observant of all these different things and how, you know, if I wake up at this time, this is the effect. If I wake up this late, you know, this is the effect, and we can always tweak that and dial it in, because what works for one may not be so great for another. But you know, who is like super eager to jump out of bed, you know, 3 a.m, 4 a.m? Generally, we have to, you know, make ourselves do it. So at the end of the day, it's like whatever we want to do or don't want to do, you know, we have to come to the temple for Mangalarti, for Guru Puja, for these things, because they keep us regular. And, you know, if one doesn't want to live in the temple, that's perfectly fine. They could live outside the temple. Prabhupada said that, you know, as grihastas, they should live and make their house a temple. This is grihasta ashram. It's ashram, you know. It's not that, you know, I live outside and I do whatever I want. So, you know, there's nothing wrong with that also. But the temple has its benefits where there's a program going on and all we have to do is just plug into it. And it's very easy. I may have a bad day where I'm depressed or anxious or sad, or I overate or overslept, or I'm sick or whatever, and I don't feel like doing anything. All I have to do is just walk across the street and like, okay, I'm here. Sometimes that's even difficult, but you know, you just do it. That's the austerity. Whereas, you know, if we're by ourselves or, you know, living in our own situation, all these things can become more difficult. You know, we can get in a role, waking up at this time, doing this and doing that, and if we can do it, maintain that, that's very nice. But yeah, you know, we have to just see what works for us and continue. I mean, I just know for myself that sometimes I was waking up like religiously at this time, like very, very early, and you know, that goes for 6 months, and then, you know, 6 months later, I'm doing something completely different, and then that's like my new routine, you know, and then this time I'm doing this. So it's like, we just have to adjust and see what works. But, you know, like Mathuranath Prabhu was mentioning, we always just keep our service in the center. You know, because different things may come up. Say I break my ankle and I have to do some kind of like rehab and stretches or something on my ankle, you know. You know, different things may come as we have to adjust to our service and our bodily needs and situations, or the weather or the time of day. You know, whether it's different things that come up over a day or a week span or months or years. But Krishna's always in the center. So as long as our main goal is to serve Krishna and come closer to Krishna, then purification and realization will constantly grow. And that's the goal, is to come closer to Krishna. So the modes of material nature are good, and yeah, it's nice to align ourselves in a more sattvic state, but that's not the aim. The aim is to become transcendental to all the modes of material nature. So, like Mathuranath was mentioning about having your service, you know, in the center, that's the main focus. I could be up all night. I could be up at 11 o'clock, you know, 12 o'clock, whatever. totally absorbed in Krishna's service, and you're not feeling the effects of the modes of material nature. Or similarly, you could get up and be at the Brahma Muhurta and be totally in Tamagun. So that's the main focus. Is these are material aspects, and the body is this machine, and there's certain effects that affect that machine in certain ways, and it can help us think clearly, meditate, but ultimately, we just have to go on with service, and then all will happen. Yes.
I was wondering, why is Krishna the cause of all causes?
Because Krishna is God.
But why is Krishna God?
Because Krishna wants to be God. Why is Krishna God?
Why is Krishna God?
What do you think?
I'm thinking because all of the authorities have said that. Is that basically it?
Krishna is not dependent upon anything. That's from our perspective. Why do we think Krishna is God?
The Vedas say it. The Vedas say it. That's why.
But that answers the question, why do we think Krishna is God? That doesn't answer the question, why is Krishna God?
Okay.
Krishna is God because Krishna is God. There's nothing really much else to say. He's God, the Lord, the Creator. Everything emanates from Him. He's the cause of all causes. Everything emanates from Him. He's always been existing and always will be existing. Everything that is existing comes from Him. So, He is God.
I was just thinking, why is the question? Why is Krishna God? I mean, you're basically saying, why is God God? Because Krishna is a name of God. It means all attractive. But you're asking, why is God God? Why is, or we're trying to trace back who made us, or why are we here? All these existential questions we have. Unfortunately, it's like you said, it's been revealed to us through the Vedas. But why is God God?
Why is
It's
Krishna
God.
Krishna?
Yeah.
Why is Krishna Krishna? Because he wants to be Krishna. Yeah.
I was just thinking Krishna is Krishna because he's factually all attractive. You can read.
You have to hold the top.
Yeah, I know. I was okay. So many descriptions of Krishna. Like I was reading one description where Krishna's lotus feet are so attractive that the bumblebees are buzzing around them, intoxicated. Like who else has such attractive feet? That happens. But he's also God because he has all the potencies. He's got all the unlimited energies. That's why he's God. Nobody else actually has that. All the material worlds are coming from him. All spiritual worlds, all living beings. So he's the cause of all causes because he's got the energy to cause all things to happen. Nobody else really has that energy. Some demigods have some things, but nobody else has to that complete degree. So that's what I was just thinking.
There's something to say.
For example, Prabhuji, when you were born, did you know you're dead? Yeah? No. Right. So your mom tell you this is your dad, right? Right. So, you don't know who's your dad. You don't know who's your dad. Your mom tell you who's your dad. And then you accept, in faith, right? Only way is a surrender and faith, okay? Complete. So, once we tell you Krishna is God, you surrender to that and have a faith. And then you will realize internally yourself. And then you will be preaching out there, Krishna is God. You'll do that yourself. If somebody challenges you, Krishna is the only one who revealed Gita. Is there anything lacking in that book? It's complete, right? I'm sorry? That's why you're taking the class. And you will. Like this Prabhuji does, that Prabhuji does, you will too. Nobody revealed Gita except Krishna. Another thing, Krishna is God. God means Bhagwan. And Bhagwan has 6 qualities, right? Maharaj told us that several times. Most beautiful, most knowledgeable, very strong, very famous, renunciate. Krishna possessed all the qualities. Not everybody does. Plus, he had the 16 kalas. Supremacy in 16 different activities and qualities. Nobody else did. So I hope that answers, why he is supreme compared to others. And 16 kalas.
But the thing is, all these aspects are from our angle of vision, of we're trying to qualify why is Krishna God. But this point of Krishna being the cause of all causes goes beyond this, because Krishna is the source of everything. He can do whatever he wants to do. He's the only person that's completely independent. He's self-satisfied. He's Atmaram. He doesn't need anybody else or anything else. So then we're looking at him and we say, this is Bhagavan, this is the, 6 qualities that he has in full. But Mother Yashoda doesn't look at him and see him that way. His cowherd boyfriends don't look at him and see him that way, but he's still the self-same Krishna. So Krishna is the supreme ruler because that's who Krishna is. That's what he chose to do. That's God. We can't question him. We cannot. They do need to be asked. Well, yeah, I'm not saying it's not. I'm saying Krishna's God because that's who he is. But then, if somebody's asking you, then we need to analyze it and further break it down so we can share why he is. So then there's Bhagavan, who's in 6 qualities. So why do you believe in Krishna? Why do you do what you do? No, but why do you believe in Krishna?
Why I think Krishna is God is because I've experienced some of the sweetness of his holy name, and it's really like this.
Somebody may ask you this on the street, and you have to answer in a way that's authoritatively, that's not subjective. Because you could say, I get some fuzzy feeling when I chant Hare Krishna. So then they're like, oh, okay, I get a fuzzy feeling when I drink a cocktail. So that's my Krishna. So we need something that's substantial to support our way of living, our beliefs, our faith, because faith is great, but it won't do it alone. So what am I driving at? We need transcendental knowledge. So Krishna is presenting transcendental knowledge in the Bhagavad Gita. So therefore, if we understand what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, and if we follow his teachings, then by following this transcendental knowledge, detachment comes from the world, transcendental realization comes, and you become firmly convinced that, oh, when I follow Krishna's way of, his prescribed way of living, then life is sublime. And when I don't, there's pain. And it's not some blind thing, like you can actually see this happening in real time. So we need this knowledge that's supportive of the Bhagavad Gita to convince others. Otherwise, some faith and these things won't really do it. And one time my Guru Maharaj was doing like a seminar and he was asking everybody, why do you believe the deities are real? And everybody has all these different answers. People are like, yeah, because they reciprocate with me. But it's like you can't take that out and give that to somebody on the street. People just don't really get that. But basically, the conclusion was like, the reason why we believe the deities are real is because Prabhupada. Because Prabhupada convinced us all that devotional service is the way. And by adopting his way of living and his vision, then we can follow that, and then yes, there is reciprocation that substantiates Prabhupada's claims, but without the transcendental knowledge of the pure devotee, we would have nothing. Yes, final comment, or question, or doubt, or chastisement.
I was just thinking of how, someone asks you on the street and then you can kind of think about asking them, like, why do you do that? Why do you do what you're doing there? Because everyone has a choice of what they do in life, right? We do, or at least what we think. And so people are running around choosing things all the time. And so we have, fortunately, by the grace of devotee and guru, been able to have this choice of, do we want to practice Krishna consciousness or do we want to practice, something else? And we make that choice every day with every decision we make, wake up this early or don't wake up, or, watch this movie or don't watch this movie, these sort of things. We're making a choice to focus on Krishna or not. And a lot of people aren't focusing on Krishna, and that's their choice. But we can see the results of their choices, which is what Krishnendu is saying, is it's misery. It really is. Because they keep doing the same thing and they're not getting the happiness they want. Yeah. But Krishna consciousness makes us happy.
I was just wanting to add to the conversation that I just was thinking that purity is a force. So if we're convinced ourselves, then naturally others will. We don't have to say much, even if we're truly convinced ourselves, because Super Soul is there. Super Soul knows what we're thinking and our intentions in talking to someone. And the Super Soul will give us, the intelligence to speak on what we know in that moment too. And it's like, oh, you have love for me. Well, I'll help you. I'll guide you. I'll give you the intelligence to speak in such a way to help that other person, develop love for him too. I don't know, that was a thought I had. Because Prabhupada has often said that purity is a force, and that's part of it, like sincerity and purity. And so, Hare Krishna.